Ancient Greece, a remarkable time in human civilization history where many things were born, and where many wealthy Greeks just sat there thinking about random stuff. But there's one who had just some moldy bread. Now, his original name is lost to time, but he found out that by just slapping some moldy bread onto an open wound, it would somehow stop the infection. Back in the day, this is revolutionary because were you a medieval peasant working in the fields and were you to trip over and scrape your knee, there was a very high chance you would die of an infection within the following days. Now, at the time, these Greeks had no idea why it stopped infections. All they know is that it did, and that would be a good thing.
Nice.
The Greeks had thought that maybe the reason why this worked has been influenced by spirits or gods, such as Big Daddy Zeus up above. One plausible explanation was Aristotle, a notable figure in Greek philosophy, who stated that nothing can spontaneously generate from something, like how maggots can appear from dead flesh. However, when he tried to bring this up with other Greek philosophers, they most likely laughed at him for having such a crazy idea that it possibly couldn't be real. However, they must have believed him in the end because the idea of spontaneous generation was believed all the way until the 19th century. It wasn't until 1861 where French scientist Louis Pasteur had proposed that diseases were caused by microscopic organisms such as bacteria and viruses. Pasteur wanted to know what made drinks go sour, so he decided to use a bunch of scientific equipment to help him understand more about bacteria. When air entered the long neck flask, the tiny particles, which are known as bacteria nowadays, were trapped in a long tube. If they didn't reach the liquid, then no souring took place. This strongly boosted his proposal as evidence. In 1928, Alexander Fleming was studying bacteria found in the wounds of soldiers and was growing them in petri dishes. He left half of the dishes on the windowsill containing the bacteria and decided to go on holiday. How nice!
Nothing beats a Jet2 holiday.
Truly a shame, however, because Fleming did not continue with his work. He did write up his discovery in a medical journal, though, and did treat a friend's eye infection with it. It wasn't until 1938 when Howard Florey and Ernst Chain read Fleming's article on penicillin. They found this fascinating, so they applied for US funding so they could carry out more research. 8 mice were injected with a pathogenic bacteria, hemolytic streptococcus, while 4 were given penicillin injections. The 4 who did not receive penicillin injections all died, while the 4 who did receive penicillin injections survived. After getting these results, they had concluded that penicillin has antibiotic properties. By 1941, Florey and Chain had made enough penicillin to test it on a human. They used it on a policeman called Albert who had cut himself and was dying from a bacterial infection called septicemia. The treatment worked and Albert's infection began to clear up. Unfortunately, Florey and Chain ran out of pure penicillin and after a week, Albert had died. The discovery of penicillin, 6 out of 10 stars.